for being here for day 2 of adopting Bitcoin here in beautiful El Salvador. Yesterday was a day full of builders connecting and sharing about how we can make Bitcoin better and move it forward. So today we're going to continue with that same sentiment with Monica Bravo. She's going to be teaching us how Bitcoin can be looked at from a different point of view, Bitcoin as a state of consciousness. So thank you, Monica, and let's get started.
Thank you. Okay. Hello, everybody. This is me, Monica. How are you doing? Are you awake? Did you have a good breakfast? Let's take a deep breath, because I'm a little bit nervous, but not really. Okay, I'm very honored to be here in El Salvador at Adopting Bitcoin, opening the second day. Let's see if this works. Yeah, okay. Most of the time, we're unaware that we live between two breaths, one at birth and one at death. The parenthesis in between is the span of our lives. Therefore, if we value it for its scarcity, we need to tap into a profound miracle that it gives us. Consciousness means the state of being aware of what passes through our mind. Consciousness is the field of awareness itself. It is not a state of mind. The mind is one of its many instruments. Bitcoin awakens and reveals the architecture of consciousness, from inner awareness and purposeful action to thriving civilization. I'm going to walk you through the layers and dimensions embedded in Bitcoin as a tool for metamorphosis. Enjoy. The base layer is consciousness. Oh, hold on. No. Yeah. The base layer is consciousness. Consciousness is the fundamental and irreducible reality from which space, time, and matter emerge. It also gives us the freedom of choice. We have to find out, each one of us, within ourselves, our truth. I spent 9 years training with a Chinese Taoist master when I was living back in New York. I did that so I could quiet my mind, and one of the most important things I learned was to see things as they are, to observe behavior and correlate it with how I was reacting. After a period of practice, I saw a difference in my emotional body that transformed reaction into response. Therefore, if you want to study consciousness, observe your thinking. Become observant of your actions and how you relate to them. Wuji is the void before creation, what the Zen call emptiness, the stillness from which vibration begins. Wait, here. The second layer is human action. From the stillness of Wuji, polarity arises. Tai Chi is the first movement, the great ultimate, in which polarity, the yin and yang, begins to unfold here on earth. As humans, we have the privilege to evolve through action. The movement of complementary forces giving birth to form, the moment when consciousness seeks expression through motion. A third way emerges when opposites find harmony, the way of the will, the synthesis that moves beyond duality. It is through this balanced movement that intention appears and will become a creative force. When I began observing my own reactions and the shift towards response, I realized that action is the place where awareness becomes visible, the moment where practice takes form. We know that von Mises called all human action a purposeful behavior, and behavior simply means the way we act, the way we respond or conduct ourselves as awareness integrates in the world. Okay. I think I have a problem here. Oh no. Okay, I have to improvise. I know, I think I did one too fast. So this was the one before. Anyway, the logos is a personalized expression of that awareness. In my understanding, the logos is the embodiment of uniqueness, singularity, also known as authenticity, and what we just plainly call being based. Through different wisdom systems, this principle reflects the same truth. The Tao is the way, the Qi or prana of life shaping every form. In that sense, the Logos is the way as a personal individual experience. While studying time through the Taoist cosmology, through Tai Chi Chuan, the I Ching, and acupuncture, I began to see the patterns and transformation in each cycle, and how each person carries a unique frequency expressing the whole. Movement was the key to harmonize the inner field through where perception, breath, and intention meet, because perception is our own individual awareness of how we take in the world and give meaning to what we experience. In Carl Jung's process of individuation, the Logos is the liberation itself, liberation from trauma, as we're reconnecting to our unmet needs. It frees conditioned structures so the consciousness can evolve. From the Gospel of John, to incarnate is to embody the word, the verb, to take action. Literally, the spirit made into flesh, carne. I love carne. To live the Logos is to embody the virtues of courage, truth, humility, gratitude, kindness, discernment, excellence, and generosity. When awareness becomes action, it turns into energy in motion, leading to a conscious life. Okay. Energy is vibration in motion. It is physical, psychic, emotional, mental, and spiritual. The power that directs one's own movement. The quality of intention determines the quality of the energy. If energy is everything, intention becomes the part that gives its value. When that intention becomes effort in decision making, the energy becomes potent. Nature follows the same principle. The breath becomes voice through vibration. The sun becomes life through the leaf and the flower. Attunement to this rhythm is key. Bitcoin reflects the same principle. Energy crystallized into incorruptible value, into money, into a store of value and a medium of exchange. Bitcoin is also a catalyst for transformation. Okay. Movement is change of perspective, which leads to evolution. When we move in space, we can see new perspectives and allow new points of view. Think about dogma or indoctrination and curious people. They sit and stagnate without inquiry. Perspective is something I once held too tightly because I wanted to define myself so eagerly in the fiat rat race that I was afraid of confronting my fear and transforming my views, as my life was showing me signs of stagnation. This was a big call for me because I used to be unmovable before 2018. I felt grounded, but I was resistant to change. In Greek, meaning self, same, and one's own. The conscious is where volition arises, where awareness enters the current and chooses a direction. The human vertebra is a column of perception. It holds the body of thought upright and connects the visible with the invisible, the conscious with the unconscious. This is how awareness becomes embodied. When harmonics are aligned through thought, feeling, and movement, speak the same frequency. Lately, I'm very much into resetting the polyvagus nerve through internal breathing, humming, and fascia movements as part of my daily practice to reset my nervous system. There are three words that also come from the same root. It's autonomous, authentic, and author. Let's go to this one. Okay. Decision making is the visible trace of awareness. Individual purpose reveals the logos. Every time we make a decision, there is an action choosing over something else. Through intention, consciousness gains direction. Through choice, it becomes a structure. Ideas shape themselves either abstractly or emotionally, like when I create my artwork, or I do things in logical streams. These decisions are the structures through which we embody purposeful behavior. When I create, I notice how each choice reveals the state of awareness, because the work shows me what I'm choosing to express and what I'm choosing to leave behind. To make a choice means to give up another. Every act takes a place at the margin. In the present, where I decide to invest my time, my attention, and my energy. That is what is called opportunity cost. The margin is the precise moment of transformation, where value is created because one's possibility is chosen over another. Each choice is a concentration of energy. I'm always allocating, I'm always directing, and I'm always investing in my awareness. The cost of any choice lies in the possibilities it excludes, beyond the time or resources it consumes. The margin reveals the law of creation itself. Energy derives its value through clarity, purposeful application, and awareness of scarcity. Mises define it as a behavior directed towards chosen ends, consciousness choosing direction. Individual purpose is logos embodied, taking form through accountable choices. The unconscious carries patterns that act on their own, and when they remain unseen, they tend to spill in our relationships through reactions, conflicts, and emotional triggers. These moments show the places where awareness has not yet entered. When I observe them, I recognize them as signals pointing to what needs integration, because the energy becomes chaotic when it moves without consciousness. As awareness enters these places, the pattern begins to reorganize and the action becomes chosen rather than automatic. The irreducible source, consciousness itself, becomes visible as the logos, the singular point where awareness expresses truth through purposeful action. The third layer arrives at civilization as the collective structure while building non-violently together. Every art, every inquiry, every action and choice aims towards a good. Aristotle opens the Nicomachean Ethics with this statement: purpose as a direction of life. Politics, for Aristotle, is the master art that unites all others, the space where human beings live together in the pursuit of a good. Happiness, eudaimonia, is civic, the flourishing of citizens within shared order. Modern life has fragmented this synthesis, turning politics into power and happiness into a private pursuit. Yet, originally, politics was the structure where intention and purpose became collective. Mises later condensed this vision. Purpose and intention form one continuum. Intention guides the act, purpose, or telos, completes it. The third layer reveals purpose as order, collective intention made visible through conscious action. Therefore, collective purpose aims to do good when individuals are aware of their actions. Bitcoin awakens inner patterns. It is an amazing tool for inquiry. Descending inside the rabbit hole, we become researchers, samplers of life, literally and figuratively. This awareness mirrors new perspectives in food, health, education, technology, and daily choices shaped by our own low time preference. A new state of consciousness emerges and the quality of life expands. Bitcoin's state of consciousness gives us the possibility to truly care about our time on earth while we can save and thrive in sound money. Therefore, scarcity in life and scarcity in money equals real value. For me, this was a big shift. After 27 years in New York City, the quality of my life was being refined by my curiosity, and in the journey through my new perspective and choices, the shape of my life gave me a new Monica in my mid-50s, a synthesis that created what I call the architecture of my value. Okay, good. A thread of harmony equals movement. Movement is imperative. Without it, there's no perception, only dogma, no change, only stagnation, no form, no action, no evolution as individuals within a collective container. No, what happened? Okay, sorry. Control freak here. We must interact, inspire each other, have dialectic practices, and reach resolutions non-violently. I learned this through my own journey when I began to engage with others from a place of presence rather than reaction. And the dialogues themselves became part of my evolution. And entering the Bitcoin space deepened this process because it's a field of inquiry, open perception. It has supported my curiosity and redefined the inner movement that shapes how I navigate the world. Bitcoin humbled me. Wait. Yeah. No, why is it doing that? Sorry. Patience. Okay. There was another slide before. So, language is the first code. It gives form to thought and makes meaning transmutable. Grammar establishes order. Syntax aligns relations, semantics carry value. Every word, like every transaction, depends on coherence and verification. Code extends this lineage. Bitcoin's code is grammar without corruption, a syntax of trust written in time. Each line verifies intention through action. Reason is the architecture between the word and the world. It aligns perception with structure and transforms awareness into choice. Action becomes its proof, an empirical practice of accountability. This became clear in my life when I began to notice the way I spoke, the way I reasoned, and the way I acted had to match. And Bitcoin, as a synthesis of all my previous practices, sharpened this alignment by giving me a field where coherence matters. To act responsibly is to make language, reason, and code converge as one. Federico Fagin reminds us, syntax only becomes meaning when consciousness is its source. Bitcoin creates a state of consciousness that encourages authenticity, singularity, and accountability. So now I'm going to read this slide. The architecture of human action. Uranus above us only sky. This is a 5-screen, 2-minute animation commissioned by the MTA Arts and Design digital program at Grand Central Madison in New York City. I'm an artist, so that's my work. I created this animation in 2024. It's a vibrant cityscape that reflects the passage of time and the crystallization of civilization, encouraging contemplation of humanity's creative prowess. This structure mirrors our capacity to create or destroy when given the Promethean fire. I'm going to drink water. Hold on. What? Yeah, I know. Okay. So, last slide. From action to order. The politeia of consciousness. The sequence moves from philosophy to economics to truth to building civilization, mirroring Wu-Ji to Tai-Chi to logos to human action to politeia. Bitcoin as a state of consciousness becomes a non-violent civilization. Aristotle anchors virtue in politics and Mises grounds it in praxeology and purpose. Civilization at the end visualizes the manifest logos, consciousness building structure from the source. So every human being is responsible for their own state of consciousness. Okay, so they told me to cut it short. This is like a repetition. And then I have a book in the author's corner. I'm going to plug at this. And thank you so much.
Okay, amazing. So thank you, Monica, for that powerful and motivating start to the day. Now we're shifting gears from the inner landscape of consciousness to the outer world of global coordination and how Bitcoin can reshape systems far bigger than any one of us. So our next speaker understands supply chains not as buzzwords, but as the real networks that move goods and value around the world. He's here to show us what happens when those systems plug into Bitcoin. This is going to be an interesting one. So please join me in welcoming Hubertus the Austrian, presenting Putting Global Supply Chains on Bitcoin Rails. We're just getting the mic set up. There we go. Welcome, Hubertus.
Thanks, Gabe. So yeah, as you said, I'm Hubertus the Austrian. I'm an economist from Austria, so I'm an Austrian economist. ex-banker from the fiat dollar, the fiat euro-dollar system. And I guess the only thing you need to know about me mostly is that I hate fiat. And I think central banking must stop. So, but how are we going to do that? Yeah, El Salvador has been Bitcoin as a legal tender for what now, 4 or 5 years? Yeah, and still at the UNConference we talked that only less than 1%, I think that was rounded up, of people in El Salvador use Bitcoin. So why is that? Yeah, so that's the talk today we're going to take. Let me just see if this works. Doesn't work? Well, while we wait, we'll just continue anyway. So the weird thing about this whole thing is, of course, in most of the world, we are not coming into something new. The difference between what we are doing currently, all the plebs, which are orange pilling other plebs, that's all in our individual sphere. We want to protect ourselves against monetary inflation with stored value. But trade, industry, production is very, very different. And the stuff which all of you want to buy with Bitcoin, when you swap it into fiat or even are lucky enough to find a merchant which accepts it, that is all produced in the fiat system. And why? The reason is that trade, industry, production, that doesn't run on money. Yeah, it all runs on credit. Yeah, still not doing anything. Now, the weird thing about the whole thing is that we all know that the fiat system is pretty much, being polite, messed up. And that is especially true in world trade. Yeah, so in principle, Bitcoin would be an ideal money for world trade because fiat money in world trade is essentially a horror. Yeah, so if you don't hate fiat enough, you hate it even more once you know what it does to international trade. In international trade, you simply, do I switch? Yep. Yeah. So in international, but it's not doing anything. Andre, it's not doing anything. Huh? Okay, yeah. Yeah, thanks. So what do companies international trade suffer from? Yeah? Just like Bitcoiners who trade in some countries, they're being debanked. They are suffering under geopolitics where fiat money, which is political money, is abused to stop international trade. And last but not least, the fiat system being a government money, and everybody has to do what government says, even if it's a complete harebrained, stupid idea, it's completely and overly bureaucratic. And this all results in the simple fact that there is an estimated $2.5 trillion, so this is more than Bitcoin's market capitalization, $2.5 trillion is trade which the fiat system just cannot handle because of, let's say, all the shenanigans which are going on in the fiat system. And this is actually an important part of international trade, which is roughly about $33 trillion, keep that in mind, so you're talking almost 10%. And this hits the poorest countries in the world, yeah? It hits the poorest countries which can't participate in world trade, the companies there cannot grow, they cannot employ people, everybody stays poor, and they're not having fun. So, how does debanking work in world trade, and why is it so bad? For instance, in 2014, the CEO of Trafigura, which is one of the largest commodity trading companies in the world, trillions of dollars of annual revenue, moving stuff which we need in the first world, or in the whole world essentially, to produce stuff which we eat, where we live in the materials. They got a call from BNP Paribas, a French bank, and said, sorry, Didier, I need to close all your accounts. Yeah? So this is a company which keeps world trade going, and the accounts are being closed by the house bank. And the guy said, okay, what's happening? Well, we just had this $9.8 billion fine, which the Americans put on us, because you arrange sugar trades from Cuba. From Cuba. And so they asked, well, okay, fine, what's the problem? I'm a Swiss company. And the BNP says, well, you know, in America they have an export ban against Cuba. And said, well, we are Swiss, we don't. You are French, you don't. Turns out, the reason why BNP was slapped with that fine is that because if you involve the US dollar, the reserve currency of the world, you are deemed to be on US jurisdiction, even if you are Swiss, and if you're France, or if you are wherever. Now clearly on Bitcoin, that would not happen. Yeah? So in this way, I would sleep better at night if I was the CEO of Trafigura, if I was transacting in Bitcoin. The other craziness which is going on in world trade is exchange controls. For instance, there was this story which I heard about of an Egyptian repair company of agricultural machines. So you have to imagine harvest time is coming. A big farmer finds his equipment is not running, and the repair company, a solid company, is getting called in to repair it. They need a spare part. The spare part is only in England, and so they need the spare part. Could be found, it's available, it can be sent immediately for the machine right before harvest. But if you want to pay a British exporter in Egypt, you need to go first to your bank and deposit all the Egyptian pounds, which you need to buy the British pounds. Once you deposit that, they will ask you all kinds of questions. Okay, why do you need that? And these machines, are they not, can't you make bombs out of them or whatever? And once that all is over, which can take not only days, it can take weeks, then the whole thing repeats again because the central bank of Egypt is the monopolist which blocks all the on and off ramp into the Egyptian pound. It's very much permissioned. So another couple of weeks pass, and they pass all these, I'll go back here, now we have it. Yeah, so they pass all these hurdles, and then the national bank says, well, now we have to wait till our exporters produced enough British pounds so that we can pay your supplier. Needless to say, meanwhile, of course, the harvest was over, the harvest was rotten, and the poor country stayed poor. They're not having fun. And also in fiat, since it's a political money, you have a grotesque amount of bureaucracy. For instance, there was this story of an Indian trading company, and they arranged for a trade of sugar, a boatload of sugar going from Brazil to Indonesia. They were in India. When it came for the Indonesian to pay them for the sugar, all of a sudden their fiat bank stopped it and said, no, we can't do that. This is impossible, we can't get that. And when the CEO of the trading company asked, hi, what's going on? Said, well, we have this new ban on sugar exports from India. And the CEO asked, well, are you completely bonkers? I mean, this is going directly from Brazil to Indonesia. India is not involved. I said, well, but you want the money on your Indian bank account. Can't have that. So, same story, yeah? They complained to the Ministry of Economics that this is not really export. Month passes, it gets passed on to the Ministry of Finance. Ministry of Finance says, this is not a money man. I mean, there's a bank, but it's an export man. You need to go to the Ministry of Economy. Long story short, the deal fell through. The ship had to be sold, the sugar had to be sold at a discount to another market. A good trade was gone. They had fun staying poor. And, well, a couple of months later, this export ban was killed. Yeah, so all for nothing. This is the fiat economy. I won't even bore you with the process which you have nowadays if you want to open a bank account. Yeah, it's not a process of days anymore for a business. It can take months, 3 months actually, even in Europe, especially in Europe, which is a bureaucratic monster. So you have to go to KYC, disclose your whole life. What did you do, what you done? Life of your mother. Where did you have your money from? Where did your mother have your money from? Why did you travel to this country? No, it's crazy these days. 3 months for an average account opening as a business. If you visit us at the booth here at BitCredit Protocol, you can onboard to Bitcoin as a business within 1 minute. Even in cypherpunk mode, if you want, where you remain completely, so to say, on something which is called a bearer instrument, which you just need to own to prove your right to money. No, let's say, data monster asking for your data. So what's the solution? Yeah? I think the easiest thing to know is that you need to know that world trade, the supply chains, they don't work on money. Payment is not the problem. The problem is credit and getting it, credit and liquidity. Trade runs on credit. That's the reason, the main reason why Bitcoin doesn't catch on right now anywhere. Not even in Bitcoin, here in Bitcoin country where it is legal tender. So what's the solution? Yeah? Any good money, like gold, also needed a so-called stable currency. And in Bitcoin, unfortunately, because of a certain man, I'll come to that, nobody knows that Bitcoin also needs a medium of exchange. You can't just have a store of value. Bitcoin's fantastic store of value, but it's not a stable currency. So the question is, what is this? Yeah? So a money, which in Austrian economics we call M0, is a store of value. Bitcoin itself, gold, it just exists. It doesn't need to be backed by anything, it just is there. You can use it. And the supply of it obviously is fixed, or gold limited by nature and production cost. The risk which you have is mostly technical, yeah? Like if they invent a new form of fusion reactor, they might be able to produce lots of gold. In Bitcoin, we know we have some work to do with quantum computing, so there's technology risk. And last but not least, the form which money takes is a physical or digital commodity. But how does a commodity monetize? That's the trick question where we really need to have a bigger debate in Bitcoin. In fact, I'm going to have a debate today at 1 o'clock by somebody who thinks there's no credit on Bitcoin. It's a currency. Yeah? As economists, we call it M1, and this is the medium of exchange. It's actually a different form of Bitcoin because it is a claim, a future claim to money, a future claim to Bitcoin, which does the job of, so to say, moving goods through the supply chain. The important thing is it must be limited, because if it's unlimited, like government bonds, I mean, governments will print as much money as they want by issuing bonds, it's unlimited, and anything which is unlimited, even just potentially, has absolutely no value in economics, which is why we have things such as hyperinflation ever since we had fiat, and that's actually not recent. The first hyperinflation was in China after the invention of paper currency, because they didn't understand that. The risk here is issuer default. So if you have a claim, there's always a risk that the issuer defaults, so you need to deal with that. And that's something which the world has learned ever since Lombardia in 1500 with the Bill of Exchange. And the format of it is paper, yeah, which is kind of a hateful word sometimes in Bitcoin, but there's paper and then there's paper. Yeah, you can also have a ledger. And I think for Bitcoin, the form which BitCredit Protocol is using is an eCash token. Now the problem, of course, is eCash right now exists as cashew, which is custodial, which is a very good technology if you want to say an issuer like a supermarket or a company, but it doesn't work for the global monetary system. We have Fedimint, which is federated. Again, you can't do that. If you do that, you may be able to do it in little communities, but the law will get you into prison if you do it international. So BitCredit Protocol invented a non-custodial eCash with which you can exit into Bitcoin 24/7, and it's completely uninterrupted, different to the single mints. So what this is essentially, the OGs always knew it. Yeah? So Hal Finney already 1 year after the creation of Bitcoin talked about the need of Bitcoin banks. I have a problem with banks. I can come to that because banks shouldn't create money. So I call it credit mints because they just convert raw credit into something. So Hal said, actually, there's a very good reason for Bitcoin banks to exist, issuing their own digital cash currency. Yeah? He even knew the word currency in the old days. It's been completely forgotten in the Bitcoin space, and I think it's actually the fault of the influencers because they just are not accurate enough. Yeah? They think currency is the same as money. So, and he clearly already said in the last sentence that the problem is the time needed for Bitcoin transactions. So you buy something as a B2B business and you sell something in the B2B business. And in between, there's time for production, for logistics, for finding a customer, and that time can only be bridged by a currency. And actually, the biggest problem in it all is a very specific influencer, because I've told him that. Yeah? Hayek, for instance, says the quantity of money, and he means total money. Base money must be fixed, but the currency must be breathing